Moving to a 55 plus community is a very common move for, well, for quite a few people. I mean, whether they're looking to downsize, whether they're looking for, well, to take advantage of amenities or whatever it is. I mean, there really are a number of reasons why people do decide to move to a 55 plus community. But the question is it really a good idea? It can be, but only if you're okay with. Hey, Jose here from eXp Realty, your SoCal Realtor. Do not hesitate to reach out. My team and I, we are here and ready to serve all your real estate needs. Okay, so as I just said, moving to a 55 plus community, it can be a great idea, but only if you're okay with these. They're a 55 plus community, which means, well, the obvious, you have to be 55 years old to live here.
No kidding.
Here's a question for you though. Do you have children that still live with you? Now, I myself, I have just a little over 5 years before I would be eligible to live here. My wife, I mean, she does have a little more than that before she'll be 55. Yeah, I'm not saying exactly how much more she has because I'm not trying to get myself into trouble.
You're smarter than you look.
My real point here though is children, because we do have a son, and when I turn 55, he's only going to be 7 years old, and that's not going to work. Now, some communities might have different restrictions when it comes to children, meaning your children can still live with you even if they're not 55 years old, but even in those cases, they're still usually going to need to either be like 18, 19, sometimes 20, 21, before that community will allow your children to move in and live with you on a permanent basis. And trust me, they're pretty strict about that. So if this is something that could impact you, I would be sure to ask those questions. Now, you might be saying, no problem, Jose, that's not going to be an issue for us. Our kids are grown up, they're moved out. In fact, actually, they're having kids of their own. They're starting a family of their own. So yeah, they're fine. Okay, so you have grandchildren. Well, what if you want your grandchildren to stay with you? Let's say for instance, you want them to stay with you for their summer vacation from school. Most communities may not necessarily allow them to stay with you for the whole summer. I mean, they'll usually have some sort of restrictions on just how long they can stay there with you. And it's not uncommon for that number to even be as little as 2 or 3 weeks. Of course, each community will likely have their own restrictions on this. My point though is this is definitely something I would definitely ask questions about, definitely investigate before deciding, is this the community for you? And not just simply the restrictions, but is there any flexibility to those restrictions? Here's another one to consider. In most cases, a 55 plus community is going to be part of an HOA, which means there are going to be rules that need to be followed. Yeah, more than just simply the age thing. Now, I'm not necessarily trying to say that HOAs are bad or anything even remotely close to that, because for every person that loves an HOA, there's another person that hates an HOA. And the funny thing is the one that loves it and the one that hates it, a lot of times it's usually over the same reason. But with pretty much every HOA, you're not able to make any kind of exterior changes, or at least not very many exterior changes, such as, and listen, I get it, maybe you're looking at the house thinking, you know, I want to change the color, I want to repaint it a different color, or maybe there's a tree out front, and you're like, that thing's horrible, I gotta get rid of that thing, that tree's not gonna work. But if you live in an HOA, you can't just go and make those changes without getting the HOA to sign off on it first. And I get it. You might be saying, you know, but it's my house. I should be able to make these kind of changes. You're right, it is your house. Here's the thing though, on the flip side of it, let's look at it from this angle. Let's say your neighbor is saying the exact same thing. It's my house, I should be able to make these changes. I want to paint my house. Except they want to come up with some weird color. Maybe they're looking at painting their house like a bright purple. Yeah, who wants to have a house in the neighborhood that looks more like a circus attraction? Fortunately, that's where the HOA comes into play. I mean, their job is to kind of stop things like that, help to maintain the values in the neighborhood. But my point to all that though is this: are you okay with that? Are you okay with having to go and talk to the HOA and getting them to sign off on any kind of changes that you want to make to the outside of your house? Here's another one though, is many of the 55 plus communities, they tend to have restrictions or limitations when it comes to pets, such as the number of pets that you have. They might limit you to a maximum of, say, maybe 2 or maybe 3 dogs or cats. And listen, I mean, for a lot of people, that might not be much of a big deal, but is it a big deal for you? Or maybe there might be a restriction on the size or the breed of pet that you have. Yeah, they may say that, we don't allow a dog over a certain weight, over, maybe it's maximum of 20 pounds. That's the biggest dog we allow in this community. Or maybe, here's our list of breeds that we don't allow in this community. And you might be looking at that saying, but my dog's the biggest cuddle bug in the world. Doesn't matter. If it's on the list of breeds that they don't allow, your dog's not allowed. And again, just something I would say you definitely want to double check on. And listen, not every community is going to have these kind of pet restrictions. I mean, you might even find some that don't have pet restrictions at all. But this is definitely something you want to investigate. This is definitely something you want to do your due diligence on before you decide whether or not this is the community for you. Because like I said earlier, they're usually pretty strict about the rules they have. And trust me, there's always the HOA police that are out there ready to catch you.
Freeze!
Okay, maybe not quite like that, but yes, besides just simply the HOA, it always seems like there's always that one neighbor that's more than ready to call in and tell on you for not following a rule, no matter how trivial the rule. Yeah, my point though is you're not very likely to pull the big getaway on whatever that rule was. But in all seriousness though, you definitely want to ask questions. You want to do your investigation. Make sure that the answers that community is giving you falls in line with what you're looking for. Or at least are answers that you can live with. Of course, though, if you do have any questions about anything we covered here, or maybe you are thinking about buying or selling a home here or in, or just anywhere around near the Inland Empire, my contact information is below. Feel free to reach out. Otherwise, until then, catch you on the next video.